everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio, and today I'm sharing with you some making of collage components that we did over on the Art Joy of Sharing live stream channel today. And I wanted to make some thin paper elements that I could use later in collage, and I did start a piece at the end of the show, but I didn't complete it. So there will be a part 2 to this video where you see the completed collage piece that I started and didn't finish. I have to let it dry, that's the thing. So the first thing I have is some magazine paper, like shiny magazine paper from a magazine. And it's fun to make collage components that you can store in your stash by just taking a stencil and putting the thin paper, and I like to use the ones that don't have words, that are kind of dark and moody looking. So these are from ads or something. And you just lay the stencil down, put the thin paper over the top, and you can use some kind of sanding thing, whether it's sandpaper or a sanding block like I have here. And you sand over the top, and that removes the ink on the paper, and then it shows the stencil design, and it makes an interesting little collage piece. It's thin, it's easy to lay down on your substrate with some type of a medium. So I was also kind of tinting and toning these little pieces just to see what they would look like with this new product to me. This is a Seth Apter product. I bought it from his studio online, and it's made by Aladdin in France, and it is a glaze that is already pre-mixed. So it has some texture to it. It's called IZINK ICE. It's translucent, completely translucent, and it can have dimension. So you could put it through a stencil and it would be raised. It's kind of like a gel. It's a gel glaze, I guess, is the best way to describe it. There's not really another product out there like this. It's interesting stuff, and I just bought the 3 colors in the earth set. One of them is a sunny yellow, the other one's kind of like the color of iced tea, and then the third one is the color of coffee. So I thought those would be colors I would glaze with, so that's what I started with. So here's a couple pieces of the magazine paper that have been altered with stencils and some glazing medium. So then I still had some pieces left, and I thought at first I might use the stencil on this one, but it just wasn't showing up enough because there was too much pattern already, so I decided to just use it on my gel plate. When I'm making collage components to use later or to use immediately or whatever, I really, really, really like to use the gel plate. That's my favorite thing. It can alter the paper and make it look so much more interesting. You can use it with or without stencils. I usually use it with stencils because I have a ton of them. And I decided to alter this kind of I don't know, beigey colored piece with some gel plate action. So I put down some rust colored, it's called Sedona, it's from Dina Wakley, some heavy body paint onto my gel plate. This is the 6x6. And then I put down a stencil that has some different openings in it. I pulled some of that paint away with a piece of tissue paper, and then I put some buff colored paint over the stencil, pulled the stencil away, and then I'm going to pick up that paint off the plate using some of these different magazine pages that I tore out of a magazine. So it's fun sometimes if you have kind of a generic looking piece of magazine to gel print over the top of it, because a lot of acrylic paint will be opaque over the top of your design, and you just get something new. You've got some of that other color in the background, some of that pattern in the background, but then you've added something over the top. So these are pieces of magazine page that have been gel printed over. And I like these kind of mid-century modern patterns to do that with. So I have a bunch of tissue paper, and I have some used tea bag paper, and then I had the magazine pages. And these are all things that are thin, very thin and wispy, that I wanted to make collage components out of. So I picked up the rest of that paint that was on there with some night colored paint, which is a dark blue, And that one to me looks like denim. I just think it just reminds me of denim. I don't know, but it's on tissue paper. It's very thin, so I'll be able to layer and collage with that later. This one is a piece of tea bag paper, and I was curious as to what the glazing medium, this gel stuff, the ice, would look like on that. I decided to put it through a stencil, and I'm using a silicone brush to do that. And I just kind of squeeze some of the medium out onto my silicone brush and then just go over the top of the stencil with it. It doesn't make perfect stenciling, but it does make it kind of raised. It's also very glossy. It's very, very shiny. Interesting stuff. It's different, very different. So I'll be playing with it some more. I might get some more colors of it because those are what I have. So this is what they look like when they're mostly dry. This other one has some acrylic paint and then two colors of the glaze on there, the yellow and the kind of coffee color. So I really don't know what was going on here with all these neutral tones. I was trying to brighten it up a little bit. My normal palette is not neutral. It's not brown. You guys know this, but it's just what I was feeling today, and that's how it is. You know, we do what we want to do. So I got out this Tiffany blue color and was trying to add it to my collection of colors today, trying to get something brighter. I also got out some coral color and some turquoise and some lime, and I just wasn't feeling it. Was not feeling it. I was doing my best, but I was not feeling it. So I didn't end up using any of these pieces in my collage that I've started, which you guys will see tomorrow or the next day. You saw the beginnings of it at the beginning of the video, but it has to dry. It really needs to dry, and when it's dried over 24 hours, I will be sanding it down and then seeing where I go after that. So it's definitely not completed. So I'm still using that tissue paper. I also do at some point use a couple pieces of text weight printer paper. Like there, I'm rolling it off. Oh, I wanted to show you this one. I laid my stencil down. I like to make stencil prints sometimes with the wet paint, and I put it on the paper, and it did tear a little bit, but I really like that kind of brown with the blue that came through. It was interesting. There was some rust color or brown paint already on the stencil, and then the blue paint over the top kind of made it pull up. So that's a cool piece, even though it tore a little bit. I just use little bits and pieces of these, so it's not a big deal. There's some tissue papers that I printed on. So then what was my next thing to do? I don't even know. Oh, this is another one of those tea bag papers, the one that you saw earlier in the photo. And I'm putting some of that sunshine yellow color on there, and then I thought maybe I needed something darker too. This is when I was experimenting with the IZINK ICE, and that looked pretty cool. I thought, hey, I'll put some of that coffee color one on there too, and just here and there, and it'll make a more interesting piece. So I did that. So it started out as a tissue bag, for tea that's been stained with tea, and then there's some of the blue acrylic, the Tiffany blue acrylic, and then the yellow glaze and the brown glaze. And I think that one turned out really cool. I'm looking forward to using that on something. I don't know. So then what did I do? After that, I decided, well, maybe if I'm going to stick with this dark neutral colors, I would just go ahead and use black. So I put the black on there, then I put some stencils and pulled some of that black through the stencils. I think onto a tea bag, also onto this white paper too. And that makes an interesting print just by pulling up the paint, but there was way too much paint on there. So I ended up using this tea bag to pull some, which I think looks really cool. And then I decided to use alcohol ink at some point. So that tea bag looks pretty neat. So then I put some alcohol ink on. I don't know why, just felt like it, I guess. There's another stencil print, which is on tissue paper. I hope you guys are enjoying this video, and if you are, please remember to give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment and all those great things. That's really helpful if you do those things for me so that my channel will continue to grow and people will find my content valuable. So I think I used a yellow, a green, and a red, and I don't know which colors, but they're Ranger alcohol ink. It was very pulled up, so I pulled some of it off with the tissue paper that had the stencil print on it, and that made another interesting collage piece I'll use. Then I used some buff titanium and pulled a print again on tissue paper. This is just tissue paper like from the dollar store. It's nothing special. Nothing special at all. It's, just junky tissue paper. But it's nice and thin. It'll make interesting collage layers. So then I pulled another print off with regular paper. And that's my last one for this little session. Look out tomorrow or the next day for the next video. Bye-bye.